We try to make these informative and quick and to the point. So I'm going to keep it short. We're going to get to our program and our agenda because we've got some good issues today. My name is Kevin Clarisi. I'm the director of the Downtown Ventura Apartments, the Improvement District. I want to point out Charnel Smith over here. She is the owner of Aloha Steakhouse. She's also the restaurant committee chairperson, and she's your liaison. So between the two of us, today's a great chance to hear information. But it's her birthday. Oh, keep that pledge. Actually, I would like to do, I think it'd be great to do a quick round introduction. If you just introduce yourself and who you represent. We've got a couple of new faces in the room, and so it's exciting that people know each other. In fact, I'm going to start with Darcy because she's one of our newest downtown members. So,
I'm Darcy Cole, and I'm the new owner of the wine rack.
Did you guys hear that? Yeah. Darcy, her guys just bought the wine rack and they just opened, so very exciting.
I'm Destiny, and I've got the brewery.
I'm DJ, setting up Blood Hole, the Tavern.
Marissa, nice to have you.
Sean Riley, Ceiling Barbecue.
Al Davis, Venture, please.
Good.
Travis Campbell, Venture Realty.
Steve Hoganson, Zoe's Cafe.
I'm Officer Bernadette Confian. I'm the law enforcement officer. And this is Lucas Salcedo. He's newly appointed to be working with me. He's going to be a part-time employee under a grant that we were able to receive. So some of you will start getting to hear from him a little bit. He's going to be really helping me out, working on more of some of the prevention measures that we're looking to do with alcohol education, getting the DUI crash car trailer that you guys see that I have toting out. A lot of those things to kind of clear some stuff off my plate. And he's been with me 2 weeks and he's already buried, so it's good. So you guys will hopefully see him.
Holly Hoganson, Zoe's Cafe.
John Leach Amigos.
Pam Baumgartner, I do a website called VenturaRocks.com.
J.R. Ford, Winchester Village.
Nick White, manager of the Midtown Cafe.
Kate Cliff, there's no way. Spring River City, Ventura. Elise, Bombay. Dominga, Bombay, Marco.
Diego, Bombay.
Catmare, totally local DC.
Maria, Epic.
Mark Berkeley, Mark Star.
Jim Wright, San Souci, Jimmy Slice, Bruce Shannon.
Correct, my favorite
Kelly Johnston, Watermark, WQO.
Neil Jeffs, Warnock,
Say it again.
Neil Jeffs, Warnock, WQO.
Great.
Steve Luna, Blood Marshal, Tulo.
Great. I also want to give a big thank you to the Good Bar for hosting us. This is Tracy and April. We try to move these around so much that if someone wants to host next month, we're open to that as well. And if you don't know Bernadette Compion, Officer Compion, introduce yourself. Obviously, she's an important person to know for this group. Hopefully, you all do know her, but if not, don't leave without saying hi to her. Okay, we're going to get into the program. I'd like to bring up Community Development Director Jeff Lambert. I'm going to kind of hand over the reins to him, and he's going to introduce his team. But I'm excited to have him here. I'm excited for this dialogue. This is an important sort of starting point about how we can have a really nice balance between the residential community and the thriving entertainment district and deal with noise issues. So,
Thanks, Kevin. Good morning. Not many of you, not all of you, so thanks for coming this morning. I wanted to introduce the staff that are here. You heard from Peter Brown, our technical development manager, Andrew Stuffel, our building official. You heard from Brad and Teresa with our neighborhood preservation unit sitting at the table. We're all here to have a dialogue. There's no outcome specifically other than to open a conversation. I think it's important to start off by saying we all acknowledge and support the notion that downtown Ventura is an entertainment district. That's important. So the city council specifically did that about 7 years ago. So we know it's an entertainment district. We want it to be that way. We want it to be successful. We also have a noise ordinance and other restrictions that we have to live with. And so what we want to try to do this morning is talk about that balance, as Kevin said. We want to have a thriving district with live music and entertainment that's important to the city. We also need to deal with some complaints that we've received they're pretty targeted and they're pretty specific. They're not broad across the whole downtown. But we have received complaints about noise, otherwise known as music, Mark. And so we want to try to figure out how best to work together to address that. And as Kevin said, really understand the balance of having successful businesses and having a downtown neighborhood that works. And so I want to introduce Andrew Stuffler. Because of that sort of that conflict that we've been struggling with, we brought in a third-party noise consultant. Really, because everybody has an impression of what noise is or live music is, but it's all perception. And so we wanted to bring facts to the table, so we really understood what was really happening. And we think that's really useful, and we think the results of that report, that's not yet complete, but we have some preliminary results, will help tell that story. So when we turn it over to Andrew Stuffler, we'll talk about that, and then we can get into a conversation with the group.
Thanks, Jeff. I recognize a lot of faces. I'm not a night guy, but I'm a lunch guy. I've been to Zoe's a long time since you moved. I need to go there. And I recognize Sean, so open up the saloon. So I just wanted to share with you kind of some preliminary findings from Criterion Environmental, who's a contract firm that was going out. They went out every other weekend, June 7th through the 9th, June 21st through the 23rd, and July 5th through the 7th. And they kind of compiled their sound measurements on those weekends when they were out doing sampling. They're audio engineers, so they know how to measure sound, and they can look at our ordinance and they can figure out what the ambient noise is and all the things I can't figure out with the sound equipment. So it was refreshing to see that there was validation in both some of the complaints that we received from some of the folks, primarily in the Hillside area over here, and then also validation that people who follow the rules of their entertainment permit are generally in compliance. So I think in a nutshell, if you walk away from the meeting and thinking about this one item, if you just follow those guidelines and conditions that are in your entertainment permits, chances are you're going to be fine. You're not going to have any sound issues, get any citations, or any grief from the city. It was real clear in their preliminary report, and they're doing another couple weekends. They're going to publish the final report. But it was real clear and consistent that when the doors are open, when the windows are open, and the sound's rocking, it's beyond the noise ordinance limits. So if you close the doors and windows, you can still have some good sound going on. You can have it loud, you can pump, you can have a good time. If you have somebody who can monitor that from behind your bar, some of the bars are doing that rather than relying on the band to monitor it. There's better success there because then you have a little more control over everything getting keyed up, and then so keyed up that when someone opens the door, it kind of really wipes out the neighborhood. So that's really just look at your entertainment permit, look at the conditions. Not all entertainment permits are the same. They all have kind of the same boilerplate. Some of them will say right on the front, keep your doors and windows closed. Those are the places where we've had reports, which tries to let you know you need to do that on this round of permits that were issued in July on last round.
One of the things that what we realized is trying to have the city, either a police department, Bernadette, 13, or our staff, and Brad and Teresa, out there at night with noise meters is that's not exactly as good a science as we'd like, because it all depends on the weather and where the noise meter is from. So we thought it would be easier to just really monitor whether or not, if you have a condition that your doors and windows can be closed. That's pretty straightforward. It's easy to monitor. It's easy for the police department that's out there to see that it's open or closed. And one of the other things I think you heard from the noise study is, you all know this, a lot of the noise downtown is not coming from live music. It's coming from other ambient noise happening. Motorcycles, for instance, actually probably do more to exceed the decibel level than anything that any of you do. But people's perception is part of what we're dealing with. So I think that's what we really want to try to talk about briefly today. Maybe if you have some experiences or thoughts or questions that we'd like to talk about, that would be great too. We probably aren't going to get into every individual business's circumstances. We can definitely have a conversation with you individually, either later today or sometime soon. So we just want to sort of lay that out to all of you, open up the conversations, begin to talk about where we go from here.
How old is the current ordinance?
It's old.
78 or something? It was probably the 70s. Yeah, pretty old. And we've recognized these updated, and ordinance updates have to go through city attorney and studies and everything, so it's in the queue, but we don't have a date for it.
And I think like one of the challenges, the way our ordinance was written, before we had a license downtown. It was written with seeing noise-making businesses are over here and people live over here. And that's definitely not the future of the city. We are putting everybody together. And so we know that the way the ordinance works is if there's a business district and a residential district, the residential district has a lower decibel cap, and that ends up ruling the business district. And that's a conflict in the ordinance that we know we need to fix. And we probably will head down that path at some point. But what we heard from the report, though, is it's not as urgent as we think, because if doors and windows are closed, when there's live music, we actually don't think we even have a violation of the ordinance now. It's tight as our ordinance really is.
I can give you some examples real quick. So, I think it was Gargan's had live entertainment. Windows were open. Noise measurement was taken from across the street at Starbucks, then at the sidewalk right adjacent to Gargan's. But the type of music that was being played, the way they managed the sound on it, didn't violate the noise ordinance for a commercial area. It couldn't be heard in the residential area. So there's an example of doors and windows being open, live music being provided, no violation. But it really is key that you responsibly manage that sound, because that is based on the genre of music, how vibrant the facility is at the time, So it doesn't always mean your doors and windows have to be closed, but if you do that, and when the place gets bumping, you feel it feels good. That's probably why a lot of you do what you do, and that's why your patrons come and hang out there and like to enjoy that feeling. And just make sure your doors and windows closed, and you're generally going to be pretty good.
So the ordinance is written for noise, it's really not written for music, it's not specific in how it gauges music, right? And it's also citywide, not just particular, there's not a separate one for downtown entertainment.
And so the noise, good point. So the noise ordinance deals with noise. Call it sound if you want to be a little more all-inclusive and not so noise is kind of a judgment, right? A lot of associate that with something negative, but it's really measure sound. So, and like Jeff was saying, what they found with the peak noise measurements that they took in the residential areas, the peak ones were motorcycles, ambulances, vehicles playing loud music in their vehicle, stopped at the stop sign here or down here. Then we've got some acoustical alleys, right? Where the sound, this area down here will, if you've got sound projecting that way, it's going to go up that street and it's going to go right in that residential area. It's an alley, and people walk around to different measurements, different locations within the alley to show us, on this side of the banquet tree, here's the sound. On this side, here's where it is. On this side with the fence in the way, here's what it is. So it really is pretty subjective.
In this whole ambient noise level, I think, in motorcycles and so forth, that's transient noise coming and going, and people will accept that of sorts. I doubt that you get many complaints called if an ambulance just went by, go right in up and make that call. With obviously with us, if or maybe others that are also doing music, we can monitor and manage. We can't always control where the music goes. Very often, the guys are told to turn down, the amps go up, and so on. Is there a sustained period of time that we're looking at that will cause a complaint? We can get to it fine at some point as we manage what's going on. But, do we have 5 minutes to bring someone down? What are we looking at?
Let me give you just a general kind of synopsis of how the noise ordinance measures sound, right? It says this is what you can have. So it says here's a baseline level of sound you can have. It gives a number. I can't remember what it does off the top of it. And then it says, but you can also exceed that for not more than by 5 more decibels for not more than 30 minutes in an hour. And then it says, or you could go 10 decibels above that for 15 minutes in an hour. Or you can go, so it tries to account for the fact that sound levels are going to move, and sometimes they're going to be higher or lower. But, when you combine it with the fact that it's a very general ordinance, it makes it really difficult for people who are sensitive to sound in the residential areas, you know, to accept the fact they're going to put up with 15 minutes of a genre they don't like. You know, and so they're called PD. And they say music's loud, and I can hear it in my yard, and unfortunately it's not, you know, putting it where they like, and it's playing, and, or maybe it is above the sound level, and they've got an issue, they've got a concern. So generating the call is one thing, but the actual measurement is based on the decibels and the duration of the decibels for that period of time from now.
I think, you know, I mean, the reason we want to talk to you now is because we want to make sure we're all clear how we're going to go about the enforcement of this. Because people, if you have a business that has live music inside here and that door is coming and going, we don't want you to have a violation if you have customers coming and going. If the door is left wide open and there for an extended period of time, however we define that becomes a problem. But we don't want to ding you because you have customers coming and going. That's obviously not going to be helpful for anybody. So we want to be reasonable and sensitive about that. But you know, we sort of have, we're in the position of helping you be successful, but also responding to complaints. And so we've got to sort of play both sides of it.
I think a myth would be that we're going to rewrite an ordinance and change the way the ordinance is either enforced or how it reads, and that all the complaints will stop. The reality is people are complaining or concerned about the level of noise and how loud it is. So yeah, we could go through an exercise in rewriting the ordinance, but the reality is the experience of people living in their residential units above your places, it's not going to change how they accept the music into their ears or into their homes. So what we can rewrite the ordinance 3 ways from Sunday, but the reality is the experience of the person who's hearing the music isn't going to change all that much. All that might change is perhaps how we enforce it. Clearly, we're in a difficult position between, you know, entities that create this downtown that we want by a designated entertainment zone, and people that are complaining who may have moved in, you know, either before or after it is already an entertainment zone. So we're just trying to facilitate understanding why we got into the problem in the first place, and how do we manage the problem as we go forward. And you know, generally it isn't asking everybody to move, and it certainly isn't asking everybody to experience the sound differently. I mean, we can't do that. That's not going to happen.
I wanted to make sure you saw that Assistant Chief Dave Wilson's here too, so, yeah. 3 cops in the room, 3.5 cops in the room.
You enforce on complaint?
That's what we've been doing. Yeah.
I think it's good to help people understand that you're not just randomly putting out.
I think Chief Wilson can probably respond to that more at nighttime. I know during the day, you know, my staff is here 5, 7:30 to 5:30. So, and on the weekends, typically we try some shuffling around at work hours, but it doesn't work out very well. So really, you know, that's up to
Yeah, we strictly on complaints. We're way too busy to be looking around for people windows being open. And frankly, we want it to work for the business as well as the residents. Our goal, and we talked about this when DVO started in 2005, one thing we talked about when the economy was doing very well, every empty lot downtown Ventura had a condo complex ready to be built, and we talked a lot about how do we interface residences in an entertainment district. And, you know, so everything died down, as you know, and now we're to the point where we're encountering this, and whether we rewrite the ordinance or come up with some better ways to deal with it from a city perspective, that's what we have to deal with today. And, you know, there's a lot of other factors. You know, what do you do when you have a special event? We got a complaint when Winchester's had the party in the parking lot, you know, for I think a restaurant week or whatever that event was. But something like that during the day, we got a complaint about. We get complaints about the fair. We get complaints about. So it's managing that, and it's working as a city. Frankly, we've been accused of kind of like not being real well organized, and that's simply because we haven't had to deal with it in 10 years. You know? So our goal is just to make sure that, one, we're not kind of caught in the middle, so to speak, and that we try to balance the needs of everyone. That's pretty difficult for us.
I think our thought is we're going to try to head down this path and just try. We think most people are doing a good job. I mean, I think that's the bottom line too. Most people are doing a good job. Most of you don't have violations, don't have complaints. So we think that's a good thing. And so we want to sort of monitor for the next 6 months. All your entertainment permits are due to be renewed at the end of the calendar year. And this is something. The good thing is we have these every 6 month renewals. Might not seem good to you. But the good thing is we have the ability to sort of tweak things if it makes sense. You know, Mark at WTO did something a couple, two seconds ago, I think, which was to add the volume control in the WTO behind the bar. That way, they take responsibility for that volume. I think those are the kind of things, as you're thinking about upgrading your facilities, if you can do those things that give you better control of that noise, that might be, help us in the long term. So I think we want to just open the conversation with you today and talk again, probably a couple more times over the next 6 months.
Yeah, this morning's just about getting the information out to you, listen to some of your questions, fielding them up. We don't want to take over the whole meeting we've got, I can leave some cards here on the table for you if you want to grab a card, send me an email when I get the final report. The final report will come out with Kevin, but you know, if you have questions about it,
I know you already mentioned that, well, obviously there are things on the agenda, so I don't want to be the guy that's going to be all today because I have a few questions. Your information we interface email would be in reference to noise and how it all works and how and numbers and so forth. Who would I talk to in reference to if there was a complaint filed or a complaint comes in, then there's a violation, then there's enforcement, all the different aspects to how we have to answer to complaints.
come through me, yeah. And then if the complaint comes in, it's Teresa and Brad, their shop that fields that and responds to it. And then we'll work with the police department, Bernadette, if it's something that's off hours, it needs to be checked out.
One of our questions is, okay, so we have a complaint. Is there somebody that actually comes down and almost arbitrates that complaint, or like they're not in violation? So, you know, will the complaint be filed?
Yeah, right now it's someone calls or goes on to my Ventura Access and says, you know, music's loud or whatever, I cancel. And we get it the next morning, in front of it, they pick it up the next morning. Sometimes we'll have a corroborating report from PD and like, okay, let's see if something's going on. But if there's nothing corroborated, then you know, we just let PD know, hey, we got a complaint, I want to check this out, next time you're out, see what's going on, are they opening windows and doors, what's going on.
What we're doing now, what we did before, probably 3 months ago, if someone called up saying ABC business is loud or whatever, we would try to call the business from our command center and say, hey, we got a complaint, you're too loud, so you do whatever you can do, turn it down, or whatever, close the door. We try to end it like that. But now what we're doing, just because we've gotten so many complaints, or you know, we're not consistent. What we're doing now, we get a complaint, we're sending an officer when we have time, because frankly, sometimes it could be a couple hours if we have someone available. Send an officer, and we're observing to see if there's any obvious violations of the entertainment permit, such as an open window, open doors, and we're just documenting that. Okay, we'll make contact with Andrew saying, hey, your doors are open, and we'll document it, and then we forward it on to Andrew Crew, and they decide whether any enforcement action is going to be taken. But that's the other thing I was going to mention to you all. If you guys have not reviewed your entertainment permit, there's special conditions on the front page, and there's some standard conditions on the other pages. Please make sure you're aware of every single condition. And if you don't like something, then you have an opportunity every 6 months to go ask them to change it. So don't, we encounter people saying, well, I didn't know that was on my entertainment permit. So make sure you're aware of it, number one. And number two, if you don't agree with it or you want something changed, you have an opportunity to do that. And this is the time to do it. So we're kind of going off the letter of the law of the entertainment permit at this point.
What we're trying to do is not have the police officers have to have a noise meter in the field. We're trying to stick to sort of black and white hours of operation, conditions of the doors don't open or close. It's easier for them to verify that, to judge whether the noise or the music exceeds the decibel.
Since our community is growing mixed use, I was wondering if the DVO would be able to have a residential person on the committee to reach out to the community and include them in the Downtown Ventura organization. And maybe once a month we have a newsletter and we send it out to all the residents in the entertainment district and let them know, you know, this is what's happening for the month of August. And, you know, we're going to have this happen at Dargan's or Zoe's, or, And if you want to go out of town, if you don't want to be involved in listening to the music, you can make plans to leave, or you can stay and enjoy. And then all the businesses downtown reach out to the residents and offer them discounts. Come, visit us, get to know us. We are all together in this community, and we just want to work together.
One of the things that we've had come up in the past, and I think it's important, is that if your restaurant has a conditional use permit, or certainly you're here for an entertainment permit, we're now educating all of you. If you guys aren't there all the time, and I assume you're not, if you're not in turn educating your staff as to what the conditions are on your entertainment permit or your conditional use permit, that happens a lot. As we kind of get feedback from the restaurants like, yeah, I know it was a problem of, so and so wasn't there, and that's why it went all to hell that day. Well, it's important, and we're available to help with some of that if necessary, to help you and your staff understand your conditions better and how you get sideways with it. Again, your on-site staff is there.
That's something you can take back to the DVO. Communication is the key thing, and ideally for us, we don't want to write citations. Citations are no fun to write, they're no fun to collect, they're no fun to account for. They're just irritating. And they're irritating for us, and I know they're irritating for the recipients. I hear about it. So ideally, if you get the more communication you can have in the community at large, with the residential area, the more respect you can provide for each other, looking out for your staff, making sure they're properly trained so they don't get caught sideways. Bernadette walks up after we've got a complaint and they go, I never knew I had to have the windows and doors closed or whatever. It just makes it so much easier. Avoid so much more friction.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to let you know that I did hire an outside sound consultant company out of Las Vegas. It's pretty interesting what this report, I'm going to have to give it to you. I have to give it to you. And it goes from basically the fairgrounds all the way up to the next block up. And it's pretty interesting. It has a lot to do with where the ambient sounds and the music are moving off of these buildings. That's one thing that we were so surprised is like the theater sign right at their works desk. You might be sound feel that anything coming this way goes that way. So
yeah, there are alleys. That'd be great to pass along a criterion that they check that with their findings and validate. Sure.
Just curious about the progression of the reports. When there's a call for service, is there a subsequent report generated, or if there's no findings, is that just dropped? How does that all work, and what ends up on your desk?
So I'll let the PD answer to when the call comes in dispatch. If the call comes into City Hall, we'll field it. We'll ask for validation from the PD if it was an night call. If we can go out and witness the noise, say it's construction or something happening after hours, then we go into our system and we say, hey, you're in violation. We issue a notice. It gets mailed to the property owner, whoever the person is that's responsible for it. They have a certain amount of time to correct it. We always do one first notice. We give them a chance to voluntarily comply. If they don't comply, there's another violation, then we can go to citation. We'll confirm first, was there a misunderstanding? Was there something about the notice? How come it happened again? If it just turns out, I don't know, then we issue a citation. So there's always validation, and there's a violation, notice issued, for fair warning, let's avoid this, and then citation will follow that. PD's maybe a little different because they don't, while they have 24-hour staff, they've only got so many people in the city that they are out.
But like I said before, we've been kind of inconsistent. We always try to do the less amount of work because we're still doing other things. But right now, what we're doing is we get a complaint, we go out there. If we see some obvious violation, we file a report and it gets to them. If we don't see a violation, we simply make a note in the call and we leave. It's really as simple as that today. The other thing I just want to quickly add is, I know we're talking about noise and we're centered on a lot of things, but here's a couple things you have to remember. One, several years ago, and pretty much every year, and I haven't seen the last couple of years, anytime a DUI is arrested in Ventura County, we ask them a question, place the last screen. Downtown Ventura always had the top 5 or 6 places countywide the last drink was in downtown Ventura. We've been really drastically trying to change that. Al Davis worked really hard to get us a grant that kind of help us do some prevention programs. Bernadette and now Lucas, our cadet, is really trying to do some other things. So the reason I bring this up, you guys are all our partners, and we want to work with you, whether it be noise or whether it be just making your business successful. So with that said, Bernadette is also down here a lot. If she sees a violation or something, that's where we might be proactive. Contacting you saying, hey, we walked by, we noticed your window or door over here in violation. But in general, it's complaint-based. We get there, if there's no violation, we leave. Simple as that. And if we notice a violation, we document it and let neighborhood reservation follow that.
Yeah, and I didn't address the no violation. So if we go out and there's no violation, we just go in the computer system and say no violation, we close that incident out. We have a history of it, so we can kind of go back and look and say, there should be a lot of complaints. We'll look at the reporting parties. You know, this person seems to have an issue. You know, we're hearing from them every other weekend. And then we can kind of, you know, it doesn't have to be a rocket scientist. We're going to start putting that together, figure out what's going on.
I would add, Steve, as well. I mean, the compliance is very high, but actually our relationship with neighborhood preservation and downtown is increased, where to prevent sort of the notification process, there's been a lot of more communication to try and just have a conversation and get voluntary compliance. So we're grateful for that too, and I think that's sort of what we're trying to stress here is that most of the time it's not a problem. If there is, we're trying to be more proactive on just having a conversation of, hey, how can we make it a little bit easier, go a little bit smoother? This is more like notification, going down that road.
I just want to, given that they acknowledge that the noise ordinance is outdated or been a long time ago, and that the city recognized the downtown as an entertainment district 7 years ago, I guess. So we want to bring entertainment downtown. And another reason that people come downtown is because of the weather. It's great weather. People come out of valleys, 120, they come down here. Most of the places on this map, which is the dining guide, so we over 72 places, most of them have outdoor patios. People like to come down and sit on outdoor patios. So you have an outdoor patio, you have entertainment. I mean, you could have flamingo guitarist at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it could be 110 out. You gotta close your doors and windows. Everybody on the outdoor patio goes to the next place who has maybe an outdoor entertainment or something like that. Or the people inside just bake to death, one or the other. But is there any kind of thought about how to integrate that time-wise, be it, some kind of cap on time, or just integrate patios into the ordinance? Because it seems like, I know one place up the street that had a patio that had outdoor entertainment. It's no longer there because of the light. And I'm wondering if there's to be any addressing of that.
Yeah, so this is one of the gaps in policy, right? In the citywide policy on sound management, one of the gaps we recognize is that people like to have entertainment outside, whether it's camp music or someone playing music. And unless they have a sound meter, walking around monitoring the sound and doing some advanced measurement before they actually have the entertainment going or right when it starts, they don't really know if they're in compliance. They're really able to tell 35 to 50 decibels above ambient. Do they even know what the ambient noise level is for that area, that kind of thing? So that's one of the gaps. That's one of the things that we struggle with. And that's why I wanted to point out that example of the Gardens music playing, live music. It was acoustic. I don't really know if it was amplified or not. I didn't get that detail with the report, but the windows were open and there was no violation. So sometimes it's how responsibly the venue manages that sound and that entertainment for the patio. And if they blow the doors off the place and they've got people dropping F-bombs and DJs dropping F-bombs all the time, we'll get a call or someone will write us and say, I was walking down the street and that bar and somebody was yelling at my kids or I put my hands over my kids' ears. It just wasn't as mutually respectful as maybe somebody.
Not everybody has the doors and windows have to be closed. That's not a condition across all entertainment programs. And we think it's been added over time based on the experience of that particular business. And if somebody doesn't really generate the need to add that condition, it doesn't exist. So this is something that we apply to everybody across the board.
So you can ask for a variance next time you apply for your entertainment.
If you have a condition and you'd like to have it adjusted, even if it's adjusted, like you say, by hours, that's a conversation we should have, but it's gonna be, our reaction will be driven by the experience in the last 6 months and the noise levels that we've experienced.
Yeah, and just so we get terms right, because I know some countries making things as variances, it's not even, a variance is very expensive and a very complicated process. All you're asking is to have your conditions adjusted when you're, and it's not a variance. It's a conversation that you have with staff. They'll look at Hilltop PD, find out if calls for service work for that facility, we'll look at our system. Looks like they're responsible for managing their music, let's give it a shot, try it.
Who's the point of contact for that? Because I think that's an important point. If someone wants to have a dialogue about their current conditions, who should they contact first? You, Jeff, or?
The planning counter, Veronica Ledesma, is the person that views those. Dave Ward is the planning manager. He's Andrew and Peter's counterpart of the planning. He is actually signing them every renewal now. But I would say if they're due to be renewed in December and you want to make some adjustments, you should start talking to us by October. And so we can have that conversation and see where we can go with that. And the good thing is with that, the good thing about the entertainment programs is we can try something. And if it doesn't work, we can fix it 6 months later. So they're a little bit more nimble. They're not for one time that you have to live with the life of your business. They are adjusted every 6 months, and we can make those changes. We'd like them to be consistent over time, but we have the opportunity every 6 months to take another look at it.
I had a question about the general, like, musicians that play on the street. Because they're not permitted, they're not required to have a permit. How do you handle that? Because they act in noise in downtown. And I know currently some cities require that they have to get a permit to be able to sit on the street and play. So I was just curious about that.
Yeah, those are tricky. At first glance, you're like, the guy sets up this amplifier, it's plugged into somebody else's AC. I mean, the whole thing's just aggravating, right? And then it doesn't even sound good. And then you're thinking, that's just wrong. He's stealing electricity, he's making noise, and then someone say, oh, he's got the right free speech. And, oh, so really though. So, fortunately, we have them interpreted. And we'll ask them,
We have a
and then they've got to manage that. And they've got to say, hey, what's going on?
There hasn't been any consideration about requiring them to that. I mean, that's an easy out. So you permits, because then you can make them adhere to the same kind of rules that our venues.
My understanding is there's ordinance prevents you cannot have amplified music on the sidewalk. That was the question.
Yes,
You can't sit down and put an amp and play guitar or amplify it. But I think it's protected that you can sit down with a guitar and play, or you can be a 13-year-old girl playing the violin. I mean,
And we've talked about it, and at the moment, it's not at a point where we've decided we should proactively do something about it. It's happening, we know it's there. We're sort of letting it play out a little bit for now, see how it more evolves. And we might end up get this, that's not, we're not doing that yet.
Can I ask another question too, real quick? Because
What is on tap?
I'm sorry, music week, we help put on music week, that's why I have all these questions. And we do our music scene meeting with our musicians at our venue, and we try to educate them. That's why I have all the questions, it's what they ask us, as you know. But another question is, how do we do during music week? I mean, as far as, do we get a lot of call-ins, complaints, how the venues?
Yeah, that was, I think, the first or second weekend, just oddly enough, we set the schedule up for Criterion International. And it was when they had music over here in the park.
Yeah.
And so they went and took some measurements, I see what's going on, sound line. I'd have to look back at that. I don't have that with me, but they have all detailed measurements. And I don't want to go off the top down and try to go from memory, because my memory is.
I'm just curious as a general.
It wasn't, we anticipated that it would be much higher levels, and it really wasn't. In fact, there were actually venues with entertainment permits that were higher.
We did a lot of work, I feel, trying to educate our venues too, and saying, we know it may happen, but it's all a work in progress, so.
Yeah, from what I recall, it was pretty responsibly managed, and I don't think I don't recall getting a lot of complaints.
I want to get back to what John asked about changing your conditions. I think we want to ask you guys to help us when you come forward with the change condition. Because the reality is that we don't put conditions on things for no reason at all. You may think that's true, but the reality is we think it's an interchange or an exchange between us and you in order to get a condition based on either a former complaint or something that's going on in your business. If you are making condition adjustment suggestions, it might be helpful, it will be helpful for our staff if you come forward with a suggestion about how you might deal with that issue differently than the condition that's put on. So doors and windows are closed, all the time, I don't want that condition. Well, instead, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the noise meter behind the bar, and we're gonna voluntarily keep decibel levels at 40 all the time as a condition. So that will be our condition. We will keep noise meter at 40 instead of at the allowable number in exchange for not having the condition of having to keep our doors and windows. So that's an example. So please help us help you when you come forward, and don't come forward and say we want to change that condition. We kind of go, well, how are we going to deal with that issue that that condition deals with? Help us.
Great.
You'd mentioned that there might be some habitual complainants.
Yeah.
Obviously, Joe Hillside doesn't have a noise meter. You know, he doesn't necessarily know if somebody is in compliance or not. If you get a lot of complaints and you can kind of verify that wherever the situation is coming from is in compliance, I mean, at some point do you kind of go to whoever that person is, say, hey, you know, these people are in compliance, quit buttons.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how that works, but yeah.
We do, but one of the joys of working in government is respecting that right free speech, so we can't, if we don't tell people, be quiet. So if they want to keep noise, we just keep replying saying, thank you very much, this is our last instance. We're not thinking that we need something more, you know. But you know, we try to operate as efficiently as possible and still respond. If someone complains over and over again, and we've looked into it 3-4 times, that there's no violation, they complain at this time, we'll say, thank you very much, got it, please set the record. And then we'll,
It's part of why we did the third-party noise, why we decided to just have actual real data. And you'll be surprised who has noise meters, by the way. Some people on the outside do have their own private noise
I
meter.
get them, I get little pictures.
Get an
and they send
Apple
me
iPhone
pictures.
if you want.
This is the picture of my iPhone noise meter, it's way over. I'm like, no idea what that is.
Anybody's got a noise meter with their iPhone, so it's a challenge. But yeah, I mean, the purpose of this is to be able to say, we've done the third party, and noise is probably a motorcycle going by, and to have some facts to respond to.
And then to work specifically with you, if there are particular issues, if you're in one of those sound alley kind of things, or there's an element of your buildings that when you open that up, like Mark's watermark, that sliding glass door in the front, and break open that thing up and get a breeze, let people go out and have a smoke, I'm done, music, just go right up the street every time. So we can help them understand here's what the measurements are like, what happens, and then you guys can, you know, try to mitigate that. Still have your fun, still have a great atmosphere.
It's a great point, though. I'm glad you brought it up because I do know that that's a role that we want to play or I want to play because we do have some, you know, people who speak out. I mean, part of the point of today was to start this dialogue to demonstrate that compliance, in large part, we're in compliance, and it gives us some information to be able to kind of combat or at least confront when we get some official complainers. But at the same time, we got a commitment that we got to uphold the rules. I'd like to move on, but I don't want to cut anyone off, but they're here.
One last question,
The
Ed?
takeaway, one more?
One last question, because I didn't get this clarified. Is there a log somewhere, or I'm not at the business all the time, I actually live in Santa Barbara part-time. And so, is there a log somewhere I can go and like see where the complaints were made? Like this date, this time, a complaint was made, the police department, or?
I don't think we
There's
have,
no
if it
official-
is, it's public record, and if you want it, you can ask for it, and we'll generate it for you, but I think, I'm not sure if we would have to redact certain personal information or not, because of real no enforcement issues.
You go on, sorry, Andrew, you go on the police department's website, and there's a way you can go pull up maps and calls for service, so not necessarily reports, but you can go like past 7 days, past 30 days, you put in an area that you want to search, you know, pull up calls for service that occurred in that area. Actually, if you own a business down here, you should probably do that routinely anyways, kind of get an idea, a snapshot of crime in the area that you own a business or you live in. But I believe noise or disturbances is part of that. We won't define any more than that, but you can get a snapshot of what that looks like.
That's, I think, that's a good resource for you to look, kind of see what's going on, or people are thinking what's going on in your facility. But I thought you were asking about the reporting parties, where that was coming from, because that's not in there. They won't tell you where the call generated from. They'll just tell you that it had to do with a complaint that, you know, Starbucks or wherever.
Also just the date and time, like, you know, was it Tuesday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon?
That's what that map will tell you, that
That
gives those kind of details.
map on the city's website. We have a city map feature. There's a little menu in the upper right-hand corner. There's layers. And I'm not sure if it's rolled out for the city in general. I know staff has access to code enforcement cases, which is what happens when someone complains and it's validated. If there was a violation, I'll look at it today. That might be a place, if we've enabled that for the public, we might be able to get a snippet of information, location, case number, in violation, not in violation.
I don't want to overstep, but I have to say, it can also be very casual. That if you have you can call me. Andrew's very available. You know what I mean? Like, if you're like, hey, am I getting a bunch of complaints? You can just have a conversation, and usually, he can answer, no, we really haven't. You know, you can go through the website, but I think it can also be as easy as that. It doesn't have to be, a huge web search. If you just want to get a snapshot of you're getting complaints, they would know. Right? I mean, Brad, they would know pretty quickly. Great.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
Yes.
that.
These are your cards, right?
Yeah, my
So
cards there.
they're going to be here. I'd like to bring up Courtney and Kate. They're going to take over our next item here.
It's not quite as heavy. What we're
Sure,
talking
sure.
about is a lot lighter. A couple months ago, I was here, talked about the green business certification stuff, and really appreciate being allowed to use this forum and talk to specific sectors. So I was approached by Kate about a month ago about this "there is no away" concept for restaurants, and I'm going to let her talk about it, but I just wanted to thank you guys for letting us use this forum to talk to you. Go ahead.
Again, thank you very much for letting us be here. My name is Kate Boquist. I'm a massage therapist and martial arts instructor. And this is Nick. He's the acting manager at the cafe. And I began to look around and wondered to myself if it's possible to have a bit convenient, fun experience of eating in your wonderful restaurants here downtown without causing containers that are used one time going to our trash bin, going to the landfill, or going to end up going to restaurants. And so I began to have a conversation with people in our community, other customers, other restaurant owners, city Ventura as well, to find out if we all together could create something different from we do. And I realized that a key part of that conversation would be your restaurants. And how can the question I'm asking you, how can I make it efficient, easy, fun, beautiful, and most importantly, profitable for each of you to participate in this conversation and creating alternatives for customers out there. I do believe that a fair amount of customers would get takeout more often on their way home from work, but they're concerned about the environmental factor, and they're not sure how to handle that. So basically, I'm here to start a conversation with you. I brought surveys that are on the tables. If you would love to fill one of those out right now and give it to me or Courtney, that would be great. Also, if you hand me your business cards, we can email it to you, or we can set up an in-person interview in your store, in your restaurant, so that it's just quick and efficient. Somebody else takes down the information. Again, my main question is how can I assist you in making it profitable? So we're talking, what's been brought up is the radio slots and educating consumers and selling them to your business alliance stickers and various ideas like that. So I want to know how can I make it profitable for you to be part of this? And a couple of ideas that have come forward as far as options are, we wanted to give several tiered levels of involvement for both customers and restaurants. And one is restaurants offering some kind of a discount for consumers that come in and bring their own containers. Two is bulk purchasing for restaurants that we can find more sustainable container options that are at a very low price per restaurant. And then our third most ambitious idea is what Nick is holding a prototype of here, which is an idea that we call something like a REGO, where containers, reusable containers, something like this, not this size or shape necessarily, but maybe more like that, would be distributed to restaurants that are completely washable. And the customer comes in and pays a refundable deposit for maybe about $5 for the cost of that. And they can use that as their takeout orders or for leftovers that are packed up in the restaurant. And then it's up to the customer to take it home, empty it out, use it, wash it, and then bring it back to the restaurant that can be refunded, and then this container will go through the restaurant washing service that meets the health code after that. So those are some ideas that we have, but really I'm inviting you to give me your ideas. I want to find out what's important to all of you in any area of your life and really be an assistant Yes.
What's wrong with the compostable containers that a lot of places already use?
Sure. I call those expensive garbage because we don't have a way to compost it. You have to have commercial level composting available like San Francisco does to take those. They're not recyclable. It's not like a corn-based plastic doesn't recycle at the same level as oil-based plastic. So when it goes to the landfill, it's covered and it doesn't get the water or air that's required for composting. So it doesn't compose, it doesn't break down at all. So you have to have them both. But if you have one, that's great because we'll get there eventually. But for right now, it's not. You can't put it in your backyard compost bin and it breaks down. So it's not oil based. That's about the best thing that we can say. But it's not composting.
I would say to add to that, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a great step, and I really admire. I just found out that so many restaurants are doing that, and I love that, and I want to support that. And I would like to create something even more, even better than that. That's not really Yeah. Any other questions? All right. Thank you so much. Please give me after the meeting.
Great, thank you all for being here. A couple closing comments. The next restaurant meeting is a month from now, September 4th, Wednesday. We'll let you know the spot. We're open to agenda items. If someone wants to address something, please let me know. We're happy to bring it. I think I'm going to put on there restaurant week. We need to probably have a dialogue if we're going to do it, how we're going to do it. So be looking forward to that conversation for next month, and how it might transition a little bit. A couple other just, I guess, quick announcements that you may or may not be aware of. Actually, with Courtney's help, through a very sizable grant through the Environmental Sustainability Department, we are purchasing or replacing new trash cans. They're going to be sort of compactor, solar-powered compactor trash cans. They're going to go in, they're going to replace these current units, the large black units, with new ones, and we're also going to be able to remove some of the other concrete ones and replace them. The benefits of this is it should minimize, it has both trash and recycling, but it also should minimize some of the dumpster diving we deal with now because they're much more difficult to get in. In addition to that, they're smaller, they're more compact. They do have some information components on it, on the sides. It's something that we have a partnership with the city that we'll be able to promote different events on it, and it actually does have an ad panel that's going to be facing the street. These, unlike these which we currently lease, they're several years old and were sort of brought on when the organization started. The new ones we will fully control, and the advertising will be through us, meaning if any of you have interest in advertising on them, every penny goes back into improving downtown. So one of the big reasons why we're doing this is we're trying to eliminate the sort of third party, and that way if someone uses it and wants to advertise, it just goes further into our budget to potentially try and add another clean, safe ambassador or other enhancement projects that we can try and do. And that's as a result of the capital of the city essentially purchasing on our behalf, and we're going to have to maintain them. Also, we're in summertime, fair lasts through this weekend. We've got a series of big events that are coming up. The Labor Day weekend is the traditional, the Ventura Nationals is going to be preparing up, but this year they're going to have an event that's basically downtown at the corner of California and Maine. The following weekend is going to be very, very busy. We've never done this before. September 8th and 9th, there's going to be a very sizable car show along Main Street, basically from the avenue up to Fur. It's going to be very similar to the 4th of July in the street closure concept. I talked to them today, I think they have over 200 cars that have already registered. That same weekend is the Ventura Marathon down at the pier and the beach party. So I just want you to be aware because it's going to be a good thing because I think we're going to have upwards of 30, 40, 50,000 visitors that weekend. But it's also going to take a lot of coordination because parking's going to be in a premium. So expect some information for us. We will share maps of kind of like where things are happening, how it's going to happen. But I want you to be aware of that coming up. That's about it. I'm glad you guys are all here. If there are any, I'll stick around if you have any other questions. Feel free to grab me or anything like that. We'll see you a month from now. We got here in just an hour, so good work.